remind each other sometimes and other teachers is I wasn't teaching art. So has taught me how to teach art. I could teach this project by myself if need be, now that I've done it a few times, but I'm not the expert there. And so I get to teach the math, and we use the same vocabulary, and she gets to teach the art. So it's not arts integration is not the art teacher coming in and teaching math or science or whatever it might be. It's you teaching to your, it's basically your co-teaching. And I think that's the valuable information that needs to be out there.
Yeah. And I know that some teachers have expressed that some of their art teachers are not very generous about their art supplies. I get that. I'm pretty territorial when it comes to art supplies. But if this is really for the good of our students, obviously they're my students. They're both my art students as well as math students. And really those art supplies don't belong to me. They belong to my students. So we're happy to share and go from there. So I provided all the art supplies, the materials, and then some people also ask, like, well, what do you do when you don't have any plan time? Because sometimes some teachers actually forgo their plan times because their classes are so big that they have to teach through their plan times. The way we were able to successfully integrate this is at times I had to create resources. I made tutorials on the process, and then I would share the link of those videos with Lee, and then Lee would embed it into his math classroom page, and students had access to that as well. So it was a give and take on that one. So the resources were always there for the kids if they needed to go back and do a refresher. Plus, if you could go to
I think it's valuable to go to your administrator and say, hey, we'd really like to try this. Is there some way you can cover my class, or can we get someone to watch my class for a little bit while I'm doing this? And in our district and our building, that's been received very, very well. In fact, that's been our focus for a couple of years, is get out and try to do some new things, the way we teach in a different manner. So I think to go to your administrator for support, that shows them, where you're coming from too. And I don't see how they can deny that.
And you will always find some students that say, oh, I suck in art. Why am I having to do art during math? But they may say that in the beginning, but when they see the process and they see if they're able to follow just simple steps, that in the end, they've actually gone through the whole process and have a beautiful product that they can be proud of. So that's been a plus.
This project that they're working on right here is a symmetry project, and they created it. And we even had one student, he said, I never took art because I'm colorblind and I can't make it look good. And so through this, he had some collaboration from some of the friends around him, and they told him what colors to use. And in the end, he couldn't see that it looked really nice, but in the end it did. And so he was so proud to think that even though he couldn't fully engage with that finished project, that he was able to do it.
And so this is where the peer mentoring comes in as well. In Lee's math class, several of our art students were in his class as well. So what was really good about it is that I actually prepped some of my art students and put them through the process. And some of them, when they finished their project earlier, I had them start this so that they would have, so they would know the process. And so hence, when they came to math class and we introduced this project, they were acting as peer mentors to the math students. And some of them felt pretty good about having to teach their classmates how to do the symmetry project. And again, with that student that was sitting next to him that was colorblind, he assisted him through that whole process of picking the right colors I think that the standard was to find whether it was a monochromatic, complementary, some type of color properties. And because he was colorblind, he was unable to identify those, but his next door neighbor, his classmate, assisted him with the color selections. And yeah, there were, the peer mentor, he felt good about assisting. And at the same time, I think the other student felt really good about having a peer assistant as well. So if you could go to the next one. So at any time when you want the arts integration to be successful, you have to go back to the standards. So this was the standards that we use. Since we've done this project, I think that the symmetry curriculum, I think, moved up to high school. So this will work well with the high school students as well now. If you go to the next. So the tools, obviously, these are all the tools that were used, and a lot of them are math tools. So having our students use math tools and having math students use art tools as well to create a piece of art. So this is just an example of student work. So I just wanted to quickly show you the very first one is just a stamp design. This was a repeated pattern design that we had done with our 8th graders. We did this with Lee's math students. And I want to take you back to how we even started collaborating. I'm thankful that our staff and students actually look at our students' work when I have them displayed throughout the school in the hallway. And I think Lee saw this and he came down to my room. He said, "Hey, I like that project that you did with your kids. This is like the symmetry, rotation, reflection, translations." I was like, "Yeah, we use a lot of those terms in art too." And he's like, "Yeah, maybe we should do something like this in the future next time." And so I thought that's how our collaboration began. So he had, Lee initiated. He saw the process and the steps that my students had taken, and he was interested. So he came and sought out collaborative projects. And then the one in the middle is the symmetry project that our 8th graders just completed. And then the last one on the right, it's that linear slope. So we looked at Sol Lowett's artwork. We used his work as an inspiration. Our students used a grid paper to create a prototype and painted it using specific color scheme. This is cool color scheme, obviously. And then they had to find the linear slope and turn it into an equation. So on the right, you can see the cube design there and has all the linear equations. And they had to use peer assistance to check and verify their answers to make sure it was accurate. And we display the student work along with their linear equations. So everyone could see how math was applied in art. And if you go to next. So I have some examples here. I don't want to overwhelm all of you, but I do strive to reach out to all of our staff members because I truly do believe in integrating art and other content areas. So this is just an example that I wrote a grant, and I sought out, I went to a quilt maker, asked her to come in as a primary source. I also worked with FACS teacher to see if our students could go into the FACS room during the time that she wasn't teaching. So our students learned about color theory. We looked at Joseph Albert's work, and it was a color play, and they actually cut out the fabrics. As you can see in the middle, the two orange squares, they're both same color fabrics, but it has a different effect according to the background of the fabric. So they follow the steps to creating a quilt. They learned to use sewing machines, assembled it, and they had the option of turning it into a quilt or a pillow. So a lot of our students turned it into pillow, and I kid you not, every one of them, they took it home. I usually have one or two that students leave behind, but they all took it home and they loved it. So I just want to show you just an example how it can go to facts and science and math. And then the next one, this is with the Johnson County Community College. I am blessed that I'm able to work with staff in Johnson County Community College. I had a mom that is a staff at Johnson County Community College in fashion and merchandising department. I had her come in. She did a little presentation on using Croki and, you know, the process that she went through to design, you know, for stores. And we actually did a design challenge. I went to Valmart, Target, Walmart, and I got all these recyclable bags. Our students had to create some type of sustainable form, dresswear, and they worked in groups. And to celebrate this design challenge, we actually went to Johnson County Community College Spring Fashion Show. So we've been doing this for the last 3 years. So I guess what I wanted to share with you is that if you seek out your community members and find resources, you're able to go beyond your classrooms. So that's just an example. So there's my contact and Lee's contact. And feel free to check out my Instagram. You'll see all of my students' product.
So, and Lee, thank you so much for sharing. Am I muted? Can you hear me? Okay, I think I'm okay. One of the things that was most exciting to me as I heard you guys talk that you didn't touch on today is the shift that you began to see amongst your colleagues, that even if they weren't practicing arts integrationists themselves, they became so excited about what they were viewing, both with the students and between the two of you, that they began to support your efforts. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
I think what we referred to before is sometimes you have to get other people involved in order to have enough time to do what you want to do. So we've asked our special ed teachers that are sometimes in our classrooms, can you cover art class for a little bit while this happens, and vice versa. And so they're all they get excited about something new and they want to be in on it. And, they're going, sure, we'll support you. We'll help you out in that manner. So I think it helps just the health of your whole building. And then other people just begin to look for ideas. And, we call it failing forward. Let's try some things. If it fails, we'll do it better the next time. So I think it's just a mind shift and trying to get it. And I've said it before. I was that old teacher that said, we can't do this. This doesn't seem to make sense to me. I want to be in charge. I want the structure. I want this. And then once I started doing this, then it just it's not about me anymore. It's about the success of the students. And that just made it was so much less stress and it was so much more enjoyable. So I think that's the shift we have to go towards our thinking as teachers.
Yeah, and as Leah and I have been collaborating, we try to figure out the right time to do that collaboration as well. I mean, whenever you're doing an arts integrated activities, it has to be seamless and it has to be purposeful. So this year, what we decided to do was to do the symmetry project when we returned from our winter break. So that kids are already, so when we returned in January, kids were still kind of out of it. So we were like, hey, let's go ahead and integrate this. And it gave them time to get back into the groove of school and also do something that is meaningful, that sets both standards. And I think we got it down to 6 days total from introduction to the finish. So in the end, what our students did was they captured images of their final product. They uploaded onto an online gallery with a reflection. So we documented, and when you share those things with your admins, they could clearly see we have student examples, they could see the process, and we have evidence to show that students were able to apply both math and art skills together to create a product. And I would say the engagement was high. And yeah, so, and then student work we display them throughout the hallway so others could see it. You always have one or two that says, "Oh no, don't put mine up," but we still do, and it's another incentive for them to create quality art.
So, and Lee, there's one question in the chat here, and feel free, others, if you have questions you would like to ask of So and Lee, just drop them into the chat. The upload of the student work was using Padlet, is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay. And if you don't know about Padlet, it is an online, free online tool that can allow for shared work to be explored and commented upon, and variety of resources, a variety of uses, actually.
If you give me access, I can share it.
Okay, I think you can share.
Okay.
Give it a try.
Okay. Am I on it? Hold on. Share screen.
Yes.
Sorry, people.
It makes me feel better that I'm not the only one who has a few challenges figuring out which buttons to push.
Okay, so here is the I can share this one. So this is a Padlet.
Are you sharing your screen? So,
Yeah, is it not showing?
Not yet.
Oh, maybe I'm not doing it right. I thought I was. Sorry.
So down at the bottom of the main screen.
Oh, share. Is it showing?
It's getting ready to.
Okay. I'm sorry. Is it showing now?
Right now we see a whiteboard.
Okay. Do you see it now?
I see a skinnier whiteboard.
Oh.
Anyway, while she's doing that, sometimes we would just have them upload a picture of their work, and then they would answer a few questions, 3 or 4 questions. Hey, what were 3 math content areas there, or things how you use math, and how did you use art in this, and let them kind of, there you go.
Now we got it.
So this is just an example of our 8th grader stamp design. And this is a fairly cheap way to teach rotation, translation, reflection, because basically it really is just you can see it's a small
Gummy eraser.
The gummy eraser. And we teach positive and negative space, and we talk about geometric and organic shapes. Those are all math terms. And we use color markers to color them, and we stamp them, and we do rotation, reflection, and translations. And then we have a repeated design. So this is just an example of a Padlet.
And by sharing in this format using Padlet, you're also using English language arts, maybe not measuring those standards, but students are engaging in that reflection process and showing evidence of their work in a really cool way.
This is the Silhouette linear design. This was the linear equation, the slope design that we did. So you can see how students, we also even took it to use QR code. So when students use their phone, students explain the process of creating their Silhouette inspired design here.
So are any of these designs that you're sharing, I know we have a couple of visual arts folks in the house, if you will, and are any of them available that if you put the URL in the chat that they could go and visit them and look more closely at the student work and their reflections?
Sure, I'm more than willing to share anything and everything. So I just want to show, here, this is another example. So this is something that I just did in the fall. I wrote a grant, Blue Valley Education Foundation grant, where I wanted to teach our students empathy. And so I collaborated with elementary, our feeder school, Leawood Elementary School. So I worked with 3rd grade teachers to see if we could collaborate. And what she did was she had her students they read a story about monsters. They sketched a drawing of a monster or of their choice. And then our students took their students' drawing and turned it into a 3D sculpture. And in the end, what we did is we actually walked over to elementary school and presented them with the self-sculpture. So I can just show you this one. So you can see this was students' design, front and back, front. And so our students took their drawings and created a pattern. We hand stitch as well as machine stitch, assembled them together, and then we walked over there and shared it with the elementary students. So this was right before Valentine's Day, so it was a great way to give them a Valentine's Day gift. So.
And were your students willing to part with their 3D soft sculptures?
Absolutely. And you know, what was really beautiful about this project was our students, these are middle schoolers, you have to understand, I mean, middle schoolers, they don't care. A lot of times they come across as that they don't care, but towards the end, when it was time for us to really wrap up the project, and I said, we got to do this before Valentine's Day. We're going to walk over and give it to them. And one of them said, I'm going to have to stay after school because I don't want my partner to be the only one without a toy. So again, that empathy. So they wanted to make sure that their partner had a soft sculpture that they really liked. And so quality was pretty high. We also had grandparents. I asked some grandparents to come in and to assist us with the sewing. So having our students work with the elderly as well as their teachers and FACS teachers, it really was a true collaborative project. And in the end, seeing the smiles of our elementary friends, I have video somewhere, but it really was a rewarding project. So it really, truly did help my students to design for an audience or for others.
And with an emphasis on social emotional learning these days, finding those correlations is just another added bonus to arts integration in the context. We have a question in the chat from Harlan that unfortunately I know the answer to. It says, will the two of you be collaborating on this lesson, even if you are teaching virtually in the fall? So we have to say, if they were teaching together. Lee, do you want to tell them?
Well, I actually retired in February, or announced my retirement in February. So I will not be teaching. So maybe I'll be a guest in So's classroom or something. So we probably will hang out, but it won't be my students anymore. So,
as far as from my point of view, I think it's easily doable considering that we have the technology. All of our computers can record. You could also use Screencast-O-Matic that records your screen. You could also use your phone to record the process. And I've been able to record some tutorials at home with my phone. I mean, I had to have somebody else hold the phone for me. I don't have those fancy stands, but I think you could easily purchase those on Amazon, and you just basically share the links. I can show you Screencast-O-Matic. I think.
We are getting close to the end of our time today.
Okay, never mind. But you can look up Screencast-O-Matic. You can always, I think that as long as you could capture and create tutorials and share the link, others can use those resources and follow step by step. And in fact, I think, Phyllis, I shared this with you, but I will be doing that starting on Wednesday through the McPherson College Summer Workshop.
Yes.
It's a virtual conference, so we'll be doing that.
Right, over on the Kansas side.
Yeah.
Katie had one more question that she put into the chat. In terms of, do you see students' understanding of the concepts change with this project, particularly from a standpoint of collaboration and arts integration? Did you notice a difference before or after that you could comment on?
I think some is just the enthusiasm, and it gives them a break from the normal routine. But I think the enjoyment allows them to at least remember the content. We always think we teach and and maybe 3 weeks from now, they do not remember what you taught. And so I think this is something that allows it to, the terminology and the ideology behind it. Hey, I remember that because we did this, and it's easier for them to recall.
And I think, go ahead, So.
Research shows that students who engage in hands-on activities can retain the learning better. I mean, these are just brain-based. Yeah, and the engagement's high, the retention is higher, but most of all, I mean, they're having fun while learning. And I think that's something that we need to focus. I mean, not every learning is fun, but they truly do have fun. And when you see your students having fun learning, and that makes you feel better. So that's been a plus.
Well, I want to say thank you to both Lee and So for being our guest, our very first ever on this main guest presenters. It's wonderful to have you. Your work is inspiring, and I'm thrilled that you were able to share your knowledge and your expertise with us. Well, thank you again for coming, guys. It's been awesome, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.